From the National Weather Service in Raleigh with 11:30 Friday update here on the 16th of January, talking about some winter weather. Actually, you know what? Let me just go ahead real quick and show you our current slides, our briefing. We don't have a full briefing out right now. Just basically, there's still a lot of details coming together. But we have an abbreviated briefing. First, before we get to Sunday's snow chance, let's not forget that there is hazardous potential weather today with gusty winds and low humidity, increased fire danger this afternoon. What does that mean? That basically means if a wildfire were to break out, or a brush fire, or a planned burn or something like that, if somebody's doing a POW burn or something like that, because of the low humidity and gusty winds, any fire that is out there occurring could spread pretty quickly. So it's not bad enough for us to issue a red flag warning, but increased fire danger is kind of the step right before we issue a red flag warning. So we're just telling folks just to avoid burning. So anyway, and then here's the other main concern: potential for some light snow on Sunday. If you're on our email list, by the way, you should have gotten these slides. If you're not on our email list, they're posted on weather.gov/Raleigh and our social media sites as well. So this has our, essentially our expected snowfall. Now I'll get more into this here in just a minute. Okay, so just wanted to make everybody aware that you should have this in your inbox. All right. That said, what is going on right now? A couple things I want to draw your attention to. And let me get my tools out, highlighting tools. So this right here, what you see, this little band is a cold front, right? And there's some clouds and some rain along it. And we've got a very cold air mass up in this part of the country. I'll put a C there. And we've got another very cold air mass over the northern Rockies and northern plains. And then there's sort of this air mass in between, which is kind of a different air mass. It's more of a warmer air mass. So this initial boundary right here, this cold front that's across the Midwest and Mississippi River Valley, that will move through tomorrow morning. But that's not the real air mass change. The real cold air mass, a secondary front, if you will, is still further back at the leading edge here across the Central Plains, just east of the Rockies. So while we do run the risk for a few light rain sprinkles, showers with this frontal system tomorrow morning, the real cold air, the main secondary front, if you will, is still back here. Okay, so that will allow us, even though this comes through tomorrow morning, we're really not going to get into the real cold air mass initially. So it's going to warm up tomorrow to the mid-50s. So tomorrow will be much warmer than today. Right now we have cold air over us now, and then this warm air here ahead of the cold front will move in. Okay, so anyway, let me go ahead and put some model data on here so that you can see how, I'm going to turn the temperatures off, and you can see how we're expecting this to evolve. So the clouds, and there's some radar echoes here. That's the live data, right? And then what you'll see as I move this along is the simulated radar. So as I back it up, you can see there, this is where it is right now. And then, so basically we're projecting what you see here, basically from Detroit to St. Louis, how that's going to advance with time. Okay, so this time frame right here, that is basically, that's 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So this band that you see right here, this initial front and band of rain, will be crossing the western Piedmont around 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So that's what I'm depicting here. All right, so anyway, so there could be a little bit of light rain across central North Carolina as that band comes through. This time frame right here is 10 a.m. and you notice how it just disappears, right? So let me back up. This is 7 a.m. This is 4 a.m., 7 a.m., 10 a.m. And it just basically poof goes away. Why? Because whenever the wind blows, whenever something approaches us from the northwest, it has to go up and over and down the mountains. Here are the mountains right here, right? And then when air goes across the mountains, it sinks on the east side, and that tends to dry up the precip. So that's why there's not a whole lot of rain expected on Saturday with that front. Now, that said, the front, as you can see, is kind of somewhere in here, right? And as I leave that line on the screen, it doesn't really get too far from where I drew the line. Okay, so this front, which is here right now, will move through, and it's basically going to hang up somewhere here along the southeast U.S. coast. And then low pressure is going to ride along that stalled front on Sunday, and that's what's going to set the stage for Sunday's weather that we're expecting. Okay, so let me back up and take you through this one more time. So there is currently today's front over the Ohio and mid-Mississippi River Valley. It moves across central North Carolina tomorrow morning, midday tomorrow. Maybe some light rain, not enough to really, probably not enough to really wet the ground a whole lot. There might be 0.05 of an inch of rain, not a whole lot. And then it goes away, and we're mostly dry and warm, by the way. We'll get up into the mid-50s tomorrow. This time right here is Saturday evening. Okay, Saturday evening, tomorrow evening. And then this is about 10 p.m. tomorrow evening, and this is about 1 a.m. Sunday morning. And notice how you can see there is a wave of a little batch, if you will, of rain that's going to move northeast up towards North Carolina along that stalled front. Okay, so that is what we're kind of timing and watching. So anyway, there probably be some light rain moving in after midnight tomorrow night, Saturday night. And then that rain just kind of, not a lot, maybe, you know, 1/4 of an inch of rain. So that is 7 a.m. Sunday. And you'll notice you'll start to see some blues showing up on the back end. See this area of blue? That's because the boundary, the colder air that I talked about up in here, will finally start to be filtering in from the west. Okay, so that cold air that's well behind this initial front will start making its way across the Carolinas Sunday morning. Okay, and we're basically we call this, we have a name for this, and we call this cold air chasing the moisture, right? So the moisture is along that front, and it's gradually moving east, but yet cold air is coming in behind it. And so that's why there's a great deal of uncertainty. It's how much cold air gets in here during the day. Is there going to be enough cold air is there going to be enough cold air in the first place to even change it to snow, you know, during the daytime while the moisture is still here? Okay, so this is 7 a.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. Sunday, still raining basically for the most part across the eastern half of North Carolina. 1 p.m. on Sunday, and you could see that back edge is changing to snow. And then that is 4 p.m. Sunday, and then 7 p.m. Sunday, and then the moisture's gone. You see that? See how the moisture just exits by evening? It's like, not only is it east of central North Carolina, it's moving off the coast by evening Sunday. So let me back up one more time. So here is the current front that we are observing in the Midwest, and it moves east, initially crosses central North Carolina tomorrow morning. A little bit of light rain, not a whole lot. It dries up. It stalls across the eastern U.S., and then a wave of moisture, another batch of moisture and low pressure over the Gulf states, moves northward. Okay, and then at that point, you know, it's raining across central and eastern North Carolina in the early morning hours of Sunday. Remember, the cold air hasn't gotten here yet, but as the day progresses Sunday, the cold air gradually filters in and changes the back side of it to snow. Okay, now, how much is going to change to snow? How much warm air is going to be lingering? You know, is there enough time for it to change to snow before the moisture sweeps by to our east? Okay, I mean, that moisture isn't sticking around very long. So there's not going to be a lot of time for that cold air to team up with the moisture, because the moisture is trying to get out of here on Sunday. Okay, and then by evening, it's over, it's done. Okay, and then the cold air really pours in Sunday night. Okay, so I will point out, if because of all this rain right here, that time frame right there is what? That's midday Sunday. You know, if there's folks in the eastern half of the state, you know, wherever this rain falls, You'll have to be careful if there's any puddles that don't dry up Sunday evening. If there's any leftover puddles of water on the roads by Monday morning, there's a good chance those puddles will turn to ice and there'll be some black ice issues. But those will be very scattered because it's going to turn pretty cold. We're talking temperatures falling through the 20s Sunday night into Monday morning. So, you know, even if you don't get a lot of snow, there could be some patchy black ice concerns Sunday night, okay? So, so anyway, that's one model's depiction of it. Just for your curiosity's sake, let me show you a different model's depiction of it, just to see if, you know, if that one model is an outlier or if that's among the range of solutions. Okay, this is a totally different model, and notice how it moves that precipitation out from where it currently is. This is Saturday morning, and it's telling the same story. A few patches of light rain with that initial front. This is Saturday morning, and then it dries up. If you're in Raleigh, if you're in Goldsboro, if you're in Fayetteville, you're probably not going to see any rain tomorrow, and temperatures in the mid-50s. If you're in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, you might see a patch or two of rain, you know, maybe a trace to 0.05 of an inch. It ain't going to be much, you know, if you even see any rain at all. Okay, and then here's Saturday evening, tomorrow evening. Notice how some rain blossoms over the eastern half of North Carolina overnight Saturday night into Sunday morning. This is daybreak Sunday, late morning Sunday. Okay, that's early afternoon Sunday, and look how this model shows very little, if any, snow. If any snow. So the deal here is there going to be enough cold air getting in here by the time the moisture exits? And then this model too shows by evening the moisture getting out of here pretty quickly. The bottom line here is that I just don't think, you know, these cold air chasing the moisture events really, climatologically and historically speaking, don't really result in a lot of snow for us. You know, if you're excited about snow potential, cold air chasing the moisture events tend to disappoint. Okay. A couple folks have mentioned that they're not able to hear. So my apologies for those. Others are showing that they are able to hear. So anybody who can't hear the audio, I guess you wouldn't be able to hear me anyway. Try checking your volume on your end. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. Okay, so I showed you the setup. What are we talking about in terms of amounts? Let me switch screens here, and let's just start. Let's start at weather.gov/Raleigh, okay? So if you start at weather.gov/Raleigh, and then you scroll down to this little snowflake winter weather icon, and you click on that, that takes you to our winter weather page. And let me zoom in a little bit here to make it a little easier to see. And a couple things right off the bat, you're going to see this graphic right here. And what this graphic shows is our official forecast for snow amounts. Okay, and you know, we're talking basically a trace to a 1/2 of an inch. Now, I showed you on the graphics before I showed the web page. You saw the challenge with the cold air getting in here. Now, even when the cold air does get in here, is it going to be cold enough at literally at the ground level to allow for snow to accumulate? Maybe on grassy areas, but I bet you, you know, I bet you there may just not be enough snow, and there might be just a bit too much warm air left over for there to be many travel problems. It might be one of these situations where this trace to a 1/2 inch that you see is just mostly on grassy surfaces, maybe car tops, maybe in the trees, with most of the roads staying wet. So there is a caveat though. If in the process of changing to snow, there happens to be a burst of snow that comes down really, really hard, then this is sort of the worst case scenario, okay? So if there is a burst of snow or a snow band that just puts it down at really rapid rates, then this would be the worst case scenario, okay? Maybe up to an inch. You know, a few spots seeing potentially as much as 1.5 inches or 2 inches. But again, this is the very worst case scenario. It would be very isolated, and it would just be, you know, mostly again on grassy and elevated surfaces, okay? So that's the worst case scenario if there happens to be, you know, a burst of snow before everything exits. Now this image here on the lower right, that's what we call the low end, okay? The low end being that 90% of the models show more snow, okay? And the bottom, the takeaway with this blank map basically means that there's a bunch of models that show absolutely no snow occurring, okay? So a blank map on the low end amount means that, yeah, this could just be a completely non-event, nothing. So anyway, keep that in mind. This same thing I just showed you is available via our probabilistic precipitation portal. If you click this link right here, then that takes you to this sort of dynamic map, if you will. I kind of like to use this personally because you can drill a little deeper into the details. And again, same thing, if you zoom into to North Carolina and on the left side, see where it says snowfall forecast? If you click on that, and then you click below that under scenarios, see where it says scenarios here? If you click on expected, that's our official forecast amount. And then if you click on high end amount, that's the worst case scenario. Again, this would be very isolated if and only if there happens to be a very band of very heavy rate driven snow. And then of course the low end, which is blank, okay? Now there's other ways you can look at this same data. Let's say you're in, I don't know, the Greensboro, okay? Let's say you click on this little white dot. See these little white dots? These little white dots means you can left click on them, and then it pops up this little box in the lower right, okay? And this is very actionable information because basically it tells you we're expecting a ½ inch of snowfall. That's our official forecast. Again, mostly on grassy surfaces. If the colder air came in here really quick or there was a burst of snow right before it all ends, there could be as much as of an inch, okay? And then here's the probabilities down of exceeding these amounts. So what is your probability of getting at least 1/10 of an inch of snow? Well, it's basically 50%. What's your probability of seeing an inch of snow? You know, basically we're talking 1 to 2 out of 10, okay? 16% chance, okay? 16% chance of seeing an inch of snow. A 1 out of 10 roughly of seeing 2 inches of snow, and only 3 out of 100%, 3 out of 100 chance of seeing 4 inches of snow. You see my point here is that this really heavily is tilted towards a low end event, okay? Same thing, just pan around. If you're down in Wadesboro and you click on the same thing, you're basically, again, it's even less, okay? Or if you're up in, say, I don't know, the places that tend to get more snow, if you're up in Norlina towards Warrenton, you know, a ½ inch to high end of 1 inch. Okay, so again, same story, just different places. Now I will point out, if you click on this first one, quantitative precipitation forecast, this shows how much rain and or snow liquid. So if you took the combination of rain, say that falls Saturday night to Sunday morning. If you took that rain, because remember it's going to rain before the back end changes to snow. If you took that rain and added the snow that falls melted, so you take the snow and melt it, how much liquid does that equate to? And you add it to the rain that initially fell, how much total liquid are we getting? And you can see the heaviest amount of liquid is across eastern North Carolina, basically along and east of I-95. For this event, the heaviest amount of liquid, and that includes rain and melted snow, is along and east of I-95. But the good news is most of this total amount of liquid is going to fall as rain, okay? So if you look back further west, if you look west of this line, okay, I'm going to draw this line here, and you look at total amount of precip, you could see that it really falls off as you go westward. So even if the cold air did pour in sooner on Sunday, there's just not enough moisture to dump out a lot of snow over the triad, because that moisture is exiting fairly quickly to the east, and there's just not enough leftover moisture, okay? So that's why when you look at this from a, you know, from a just moisture perspective, there's just not a lot of moisture to work with. And where there is the most moisture, most of that's going to fall as rain. So anyway, I hope that kind of puts into perspective what we're thinking and why we're showing these lower end amounts, because it's just, you know, it's a battle between how quickly can that cold air get in here before the moisture even moves out. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you, and then we'll wrap it up here, is our official temperature forecast. Because again, I want to just talk briefly about that black ice potential Sunday night. And these are hour by hour temperature forecasts. This is not a model. This is the official National Weather Service forecast. The timestamp is at the very bottom. So here's 2 a.m. Saturday. And let me just run through and just advance to the daytime Saturday. So you can see this is 6 a.m. Saturday, and I apologize, this website's not exactly the fastest website. So it's a little takes a little while to work our way through this website, but I want to advance to 2 p.m. and you can see it's going to warm up pretty nicely during the daytime tomorrow. Another negative impact, or another negative influence to snow accumulating on Sunday. The ground's going to be pretty warm. You can see temperatures peaking somewhere in the low to mid 60s east of I-95, and in the upper 40s to mid 50s west of I-95. So but then as we get through the daytime Sunday, this time period right here is 7 a.m. Sunday. Notice how the cold air will be, as I advance this is 10 a.m. Sunday. Notice how, we're stuck in the mid 30s. So again, it's going to take a while for that changeover. Lower 30s, maybe lower to mid 30s in the triad. This is 1 p.m. It'll probably be cold enough on this back edge by the time we get to 1 p.m. But let's just advance into the evening hours. And remember what I said before, if there's any puddles of water on the road. Here's 7 p.m. Sunday, and you can see temperature is at or below freezing, generally along this line by 7 p.m. Sunday. And then by let's see here, bear with me for just a second. What time is that? That's 1 a.m. Look, by 1 a.m. at 1 a.m. Sunday night into Monday morning, we're already down to the 20s. The point I'm trying to make here is that during the evening hours, the temperature is going to plummet, and we'll be in the 20s by midnight Sunday night. So any water that lingers on the ground, puddles, will likely freeze, and there'll be patchy black ice. Okay. So that is the what I've got for you. Again, there's one last web page I want to feature. If you want to drill down to the details for your specific location, if you want to know the exact hour the temperature is going to rise above freezing or fall below freezing, check out weather.gov/forecast points. Okay, weather.gov/forecast points. Either type in your city or just click on the map of your location of interest. And then you could go down and scroll down here to where it says configure plot order, and then just pick what you want to see. I'll turn them all on just for demo purposes here, and then hit save. And then this gives you day by day. And if you scroll further down, this gives you hour by hour. Here's your slider bar where you can go from left to right day by day. And here's Sunday. So this is Sunday in the middle. And again, just want to reiterate, look how quickly the temperature. So if you're, I don't even know where I clicked on. Where did I click on? I've clicked on the Garner area. So if you're in Garner, temperature is going to fall below freezing between 6 and 7 p.m. and it's going to bottom out in the lower 20s. Okay. So if you're wondering, well, what about Monday morning? When's the temperature going to rise above freezing? Well, it will rise above freezing between 9 and 10 a.m. Monday morning. Okay. So there's a tool for you if you want to get the exact hour and day temperatures due, whatever it is that concerns you. Okay. All right. So that wraps up my presentation.